certain people using their computers to print money. In the previous episode of Chip Wars, we talked all about inflation, deflation, and the Great Depression, especially how deflation can be bad for any real economy, perhaps even the Bitcoin economy. In this episode, let's continue the conversation by going into detail, hopefully answering any questions you might have about what all the Bitcoin hype is really about. Now let's explain how it works. Built on a peer-to-peer infrastructure, Bitcoin transactions are fast and somewhat anonymous. But unlike credit cards, they have really low fees.
If my credit card has a fee, I'm canceling right now.
Every time you use a credit card, the business pays a fee, not you.
Oh, okay. I feel better now.
The other problem with credit cards for businesses is the long wait for the money transfer while the processor checks for fraud. With Bitcoin, instead of centralized processing, transactions are cryptographically verified by so-called Bitcoin miners. Anyone with a powerful computer running a free application can become a miner. The program looks for transactions to verify, then repeatedly computes a hash function over and over again until it finds a unique checksum that verifies the transaction. Then it's added permanently to the blockchain.
Blockchain?
The blockchain is essentially a public ledger that logs every single transaction ever made.
Now why in the hell would anyone run a computer day and night to verify other people's Bitcoin transactions?
Because in return, miners are rewarded with a certain amount of Bitcoins. In the beginning, early adopters easily accumulated hundreds of thousands of Bitcoins. Since there wasn't that much competition, mining was easy, and each one was worth less than a penny. One early Bitcoin miner reportedly offered 10,000 Bitcoins to anyone who would deliver him 2 pizzas. But as Bitcoin mining became more popular and valuable, mining became more difficult. Today, the electrical bill from running your computer will probably be bigger than the value of the actual reward, and the rewards will continue to drop for late adopters.
Can't someone make counterfeit Bitcoins or hack the system?
Even though nothing is 100% secure, the Bitcoin network has surprisingly held up okay so far. With any currency, security is critical to building confidence. Because the source code behind the network is public and open source, the algorithm can be tested for vulnerabilities. As hackers and cryptographers challenge the network, heavily invested Bitminers release updates and patches in response. While this may sound scary, this tug-of-war has actually been going on for thousands of years. Counterfeiting has been around since the beginning of trade. Human nature drives us to test things. With Bitcoin, instead of a government or business fighting fraud, early adopters are working to keep it secure. If you ever acquire Bitcoins, you would need to store them in a wallet. And like a real wallet, it can be easily stolen or lost. If that happens, it's like doing this.
Not about money. Everything burns.
But is Bitcoin really a currency? Is it actually money?
Unlike most commodities, Bitcoin doesn't have an intrinsic value. It only has extrinsic value from the people who believe in it. If Bitcoin holders lose the faith, the value drops. The Joker didn't care about money, he just wanted to expose money for what it is, a collective belief that he refused to participate in.
Some men aren't looking for anything logical, like money. They can't be bought, bullied, reasoned, or negotiated with. Some men just want to watch the world burn.
Now, while this is also true of paper money, cultural traditions and laws managing national currencies are less likely to trigger an absolute loss in confidence. Governments, businesses, and people reinforce the collective faith we have in the value of paper money by affecting both the supply and demand of national currencies. And this is what makes Bitcoin truly unique, extremely risky, and highly speculative. Instead of being managed by central banks, the supply is controlled by an algorithm, a mathematically absolute set of instructions that fixes the rate of growth until the total number of Bitcoins equals 21 million. So the value of Bitcoin is driven solely by demand. In other words, deflationary pressure is built into the system. Some of the early adopters and Bitcoin enthusiasts have so much faith in it that they are spending tens of thousands of dollars in computing setups made specifically for mining. And here's the dilemma. If Bitcoin grows more popular, and hence more valuable, the Bitcoin price of 2 pizzas will continue to dramatically drop. This is a problem for any real economy. Businesses, like pizza shops, want to focus on making and doing things to get currency. But if a business has to drop prices to survive, it will eventually go bankrupt. For the consumer, if the value of Bitcoin grows dramatically faster than the value of goods and services priced in Bitcoins, doesn't it make sense to just save whatever Bitcoins you have rather than spend the Bitcoins on real things? If you want a pizza, just use your dollars. It's a bad sign for any economy when the best return on investment is the currency itself, rather than a real business that makes and sells things.
Wait, can't you just immediately convert your Bitcoins to dollars?
Sure, but then your risk transfers to the Bitcoin exchanges. Ultimately, businesses and people have to ask themselves, Is it worth the risk? Lately, Bitcoin has been going through periods of hyperdeflation. Businesses and most customers would rather not deal with wildly swinging prices. And those who sell or buy Bitcoins, especially during the month of April, have had no price stability at all. So all things being equal, the wild and speculative valuations of the Bitcoin market are evidence that, by design, this cryptocurrency lacks the stability most people need to conduct businesses. And it's an even worse currency to rely on for long-term saving and investment. At this point, unless you're a lucky early adopter, the value of Bitcoin is too unpredictable for anything but extremely short-term transactions. Without stability, it will probably never be a reliable store of value or medium of exchange. At best, as long as the network remains secure, Bitcoin is the first major speculative thing that could be used to transfer wealth outside of the traditional currency system on a temporary basis.
You only give me your funny paper.
There's no doubt that Bitcoins have real value today, but will the temporary value be enough to sustain the Bitcoin economy in the future? In Chip Wars 17, we're going to take a look at who might benefit the most from the continued growth of the Bitcoin market. If you're watching on a computer, just click the boxes, otherwise check the links below.
I only give you my situation, and in the middle of investigation,